Hey guys, welcome back. Today, we're continuing the Top 7 series by taking a look at 7 vehicles that I would love to see return in some capacity in Halo Infinite. We've covered characters, we've covered boomsticks, so I figured it was time to cover vehicles, and just like usual, my choices are rather unique and generally aren't gonna be ones you're expecting, so buckle up. However, this video is going to be a tad shorter than usual. Reason being, Foo43 very kindly sent me a very early copy of Shadows of Reach, so I'm currently trying my best to power read through the entire thing and get videos prepped for you guys to release very shortly after the book comes out. Hopefully you understand, I'm sure you do. So, in the spirit of haste, let's begin the countdown. Coming in at the coveted number 7 spot, we have the first of, I'm gonna be honest, quite a few air vehicles in this video. The Forerunner Z-1800 Phaeton, an exo-atmospheric multi-role fighter ship employed in the billions by the Forerunners during their war against the Flood. Now, you guys know that I'm not exactly the biggest fan of Halo 5 or any of the things that it brought to the table, but the Phaeton is a rare exception. Ever since hearing the distant rumours of the mythical Forerunner tank that Bungie cut from Halo 2, I'd practically been salivating for a pilotable Forerunner vehicle, and honestly, the Phaeton didn't disappoint. Its design had a distinct lack of floaty bits, which was a rarity within Halo 5's Forerunner aesthetic, and honestly, the design overall kind of reminds me of one of Skynet's hunter-killer drones. At least, the concept version of the Phaeton does, with the blue lighting as opposed to the orange lighting. That said, I still think the orange lighting looks pretty good. And as for functionality, well, it functioned unlike any other air vehicle in Halo yet. With its thin profile and agile capabilities, it truly filled the role of a light VTOL. Its damage potential was insanely high, with both a hard light heavy cannon and hard light missiles, which could be combined with its teleport ability to dash around the battlefield, evading enemy fire and delivering quick bursts of damage before once again dashing out of the battle to recharge its weaponry. However, its high speed and damage output came at a heavy yet rather fair cost. This thing is basically made of paper mache. I mean, if you shoot the core, which is very inconveniently located on its underbelly, this thing can be shot down in like a magazine of a DMR. Maybe this trade-off was a bit too harsh, but honestly I can see where Foo43 were coming from with it. Ultimately, I really do think that the Phaeton was a unique and interesting take on not just a Forerunner air vehicle, but a Halo aerial vehicle full stop, and I would love to see it make a return in Halo Infinite. At number 6, we have the first vehicle from the Spirit of Fire's arsenal, the M850 main battle tank, aka the Grizzly. Now, the Grizzly is an iconic Halo vehicle. It's literally a Scorpion on steroids, and given that we're fighting the Banished in Halo Infinite, I've got my fingers eternally crossed that the Grizzly makes the jump over from Halo Wars with them. Ever since Halo Wars 1, people have been begging for the Grizzly to make its way over to the main games, and I mean, look at it. It's not hard to tell why. If vehicle and boomstick variants do return, which I really hope they do, that was one of the best things about Halo 5, then I really want them to be more than just simple repainted versions of the base models, and in that vein, the Grizzly would make for an excellent mythic variant of the Scorpion. A double-barreled main battle tank with a 7.62 coaxial machine gun and rear turret-mounted missile pods is any demolition expert's pipe dream, and at the same time, the Banished's worst nightmare. So damn it, 343, let me pilot this monster of a tank in Halo Infinite. Please. Okay, so in traditional Halo Countdown fashion, we've got to have some honourable mentions, so whilst we're on the topic of tanks, let's take a look at our first, the mythical Forerunner tank. So, if you're unaware, Bungie originally planned for there to be a mission in Halo 2 set between Regret and the Gravemind cutscene after Chief jumps into the lake, where basically he would explore the bowels of Delta Halo with the Gravemind tentacles slamming down all around him and moving behind doors like racing freight trains, in the words of Bungie, to sort of gradually introduce the monstrous Gravemind prior to it eventually capturing Chief. Now, you'd spend the majority of this mission in this fabled Forerunner tank, which, according to Marcus Leto, was something awesome that blows things up, glows a lot from little windows, and moves real fast. So not only does this level sound really, really cool, but the Forerunner tank sounds like a new and unique take on the conventional tank. So in Halo, we have the slow, heavy, and rather traditional Scorpion tank, the slow, heavy Wraith mortar tank, and then, if it were to be added, a fast, presumably slightly weaker and smaller Forerunner tank, all filling very, very different niches within the tank sandbox with very little overlap. Seeing as 343 seems so infatuated with resurrecting many of Bungie's old, lost, and forgotten Halo concepts with Halo Infinite, I would love to see the Forerunner tank get the same treatment. Resurrect my baby 343, please, it would only be right. Okay, returning to the countdown, in the number 5 spot we have yet another aerial vehicle and another vehicle within the Spirit of Fire's armada. Except this time, one that was sadly not featured in Halo Wars 2, and I'm still a little bit salty about that, I'm not gonna lie. The AV-22 Sparrowhawk. Filling a very interesting and rather niche role within the UNSC, the Sparrowhawk is a VTOL designed for air-to-ground combat, but specifically air-to-ground anti-tank combat. It's lightning fast, nimble, and comes with a pair of autocannons firing devastating 20mm rounds, and also capable of chambering the UNSC's entire array of 20mm variations, along with a nose-mounted M6 Grindle, a heavier, upgraded version of the standard Spartan laser. So, with all that in mind, I think it's safe to say that this bad boy would be so fun to pilot in an FPS. It could be Halo's first jet-like vehicle, which, in my opinion, would be cool as hell. Tell me big team battle with Sparrowhawks that act similar to jets wouldn't be incredible. If the Spirit of Fire does end up making an appearance in Halo Infinite, which I really hope that it does, I would love for them to bring the Sparrowhawk along as well. I mean, hell, if anyone from the Spirit of Fire is likely to make an appearance in Infinite, it's Anders, and the Hawks were her speciality unit in Halo Wars 1, so I don't want to say there's a chance, but damn it, I'm gonna keep dreaming. Okay, so coming in at the number 4 spot, we have something that for once isn't a tank, and it isn't an aerial vehicle. We have the Type 46 Infantry Support Vehicle, aka the Spectre. Now, the Spectre is actually one of, if not my favourite Halo vehicle of all time. It sounds weird, but there's just something about the Spectre that vastly outshines the Prowler and also the Revenant as the Covenant's answer to the Warthog for me. It has a really unique alien design with lots of curves and sharp pointy edges and a really cool paint job that, honestly, looking at it now, wouldn't look too out of place being used by the Banished. Just add some dark grey and black accents and have its turret fire red plasma as opposed to blue and you'd be good to go. I'm gonna be honest, I don't have that much to say about the Spectre. I mean, it's not the most unique vehicle in the history of Halo. It is literally just a Covenant Warthog with one more seat. But for some reason, the Spectre holds a real special place in my heart. I mean, it's probably partly nostalgia because the only game that it's ever been featured in happens to be my favourite game of all time. That definitely helps, but I don't know. All I know for sure is that I want the Spectre to come back, and actually, I see quite a lot of other people sharing the same sentiment, so, you know, 343, make our dreams come true. Wait, what's that? You can hear every minute detail in the sound of Halo Infinite's Warthog engine, and you can even hear Chief's blood trickling through his veins in the driver's seat, despite the game not releasing for a great many months. But how is that possible? Unless you are bestowed with the raw audio power of Raycon, who just so happen to be the sponsors of today's video. With the Raycon Everyday E25 earbuds, you're getting sound quality just as amazing as the other top brands, and yet they start at about half the price of these other premium wireless earbuds. Sound tantalizing?
Yes.
Then go to buyraycon.com/HiddenXperia or click the link in the description to get 15% off your first purchase. The Everyday E25s are Raycon's best earbuds yet, thanks to their 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, comfy compact design, and also a 45-day free return policy, so you can ensure that they are absolutely the best wireless earbuds for you. So if you're in the market for some stylish, high quality and well-priced earbuds, go to buyraycon.com/HiddenXperia or just click the link in the description and get 15% off your first purchase today. Cheers to Raycon for sponsoring the video, and now let's get back to the top half of today's vehicular countdown. Alrighty, so before we hit the podium spots, we have our second and final honourable mention, the Blisterback. Now, originally, I wasn't even going to mention the Blisterback because it's such a no-brainer. If you ask anybody what vehicle from Halo Wars they'd like to see in a mainline game, the answer is almost always the Blisterback, but you know, I figured I'd include it anyway because, well, honestly, I really want this sucker in Infinite. When it comes to unique alien Halo vehicles, it really doesn't get much better than this. An insectoid hexapedal heavy air vehicle armed with a medium plasma cannon that, upon its pilot's command, can land, lock down, and open up its carapace, revealing missile pods that launch a barrage of Annihilator siege missiles, effectively transforming it into an immobile long-range artillery unit, is just one of the coolest vehicle ideas that Halo has ever seen. Now, this goes entirely without saying, but the Blisterback would just be so much fun to pilot, especially in a larger, more open-world game like Infinite, where the vistas and play spaces are so much bigger. A vehicle that can simultaneously allow you to travel large distances with ease and also hit targets from longer distances would just fit like a glove. And when you consider that we're fighting the Banished, well, you know, the jigsaw puzzle just starts to complete itself. There's never been a vehicle like the Blisterback in Halo before, and honestly, I can't think of any ideas for a new vehicle that could match its ingenuity and unique place in the sandbox. It'd be a vehicle that would be perfectly suited for both campaign and also large-scale big team battle, so 343, if you came to hear me beg for the Blisterback in Halo Infinite, well, you won't be disappointed. Okay, so we've finally reached the podium, and in third place, we have the Attack VTOL 14, aka the Hornet. Now, since 343 took over, Halo's vehicle sandbox, and its aerial vehicle sandbox in particular, has really suffered. I know I said earlier that I love the Phaeton, and I do, but it, along with the Wasp, are prime examples of why it suffered. Every new air vehicle has just been a one-seat powerhouse, meant purely for damage output and nothing else, and while on the surface that sounds quite fun and cool, it really dilutes the sandbox. Now, ironically, the weapon sandbox has also suffered from this. I mean, in Halo 5, every weapon, including the plasma pistol, just kills good. Like, there's no utility, they just do damage, but that's another topic for another day. Having no multi-seat utility-focused aerial vehicles meant that there was no variety in the aerial vehicle sandbox, but adding the Hornet back would be a fantastic way to fix that. Not only was the Hornet a fan-favourite air vehicle with an interesting design and unique functionality, it was also the only light aircraft in Halo history to be primarily designed around utility rather than just pure damage output. Now, yeah, its autocannons were decent against infantry and light vehicles, and the version with missiles could definitely output some damage, but primarily, at least in multiplayer, its primary use case was for running objectives or for dipping in and out of enemy territory, and its unique control scheme fed into that really well. Being able to increase and decrease altitude vertically without having to alter your trajectory like with the Banshee made some really interesting evasive maneuvers possible. Maneuvers that were made even more interesting when you had the flag carriers sat on the side. If the Hornet were to come back, then I'd love to see it get the same treatment that the Warthog got in Reach, where it was given several variants, like a Rocket Hornet, or a Gorse Hornet, or a Transport Hornet. Give it variants that lean further into its niche, and also variants that experiment by leaning out of its niche. Bring it back, flesh it out, and make us all happy, 343. You know you want to. So, in the penultimate number 2 spot, we have a bit of a curveball, but something that I'm really excited to finally be able to talk about. The Colossus, one of the few mechs in the Halo series and one that was introduced in Halo Wars 2. As one of the many runting Yggdrasil variants, the Mark II J Colossus was developed by Materials Group and Hannibal Weapon Systems to act as the successor to the Mark II D Mega Mantis, intended for use by the UNSC Army, and comes armed with a relatively basic heavy autocannon and a much heavier long-range heavy railgun. And on top of these armaments, its legs can stomp with such a force that all surrounding it are stunned and damaged. So it goes without saying that the Colossus is an absolute monster of a mech. Halo's Sahelanthropus, if you will, and I would love to see it in Infinite as a sort of mythic mantis that's more powerful than the regular mantis in every way, shape and form. However, I'm gonna cheat a bit here and make the number 2 spot about more than just the Colossus. See, you guys know that I am a huge Metal Gear fan, and so it should be no surprise that I'm also a lover of good mech design and just mechs in general. Now, there's something about Halo Wars 2's mech design that, to me, really reminds me of Metal Gear's. I mean, the Colossus, again, just to me, I don't know if I'm the only one that sees this, but it really reminds me of Sahelanthropus in a way, and I just think in general, Jeremy Cook and the art team on Halo Wars 2 absolutely nailed the Halo mech aesthetic just in general in the game, and it'd be a real shame to see all of that be left behind. In my opinion, one of the best things that 343 have done to Halo is slowly introduce mechs. I mean, during the Bungie era, mechs were basically non-existent, but then when 343 took over, it started with the prototype suit in Halo Legends in 2010, then we got the Mantis and also technically the Mega Mantis in Halo 4, and then they just took it to another level in Halo Wars 2, and it would be such a shame for it to stop there. In Halo Infinite, on top of seeing the Colossus make an appearance, I'd love to see this continue and a strong investment be made into Halo's mechs. Give the Mantis more siblings and cousins and flesh out the mech sandbox, if the mech sandbox is even a thing. All of the mechs that we've had so far in Halo look and sound fantastic, and it'd be such a shame for them to not make an appearance in some capacity in a main game. Halo's mechs are an area of such untapped potential, and I'd love to see Halo Infinite rectify that. Please, 343, give us more mechs, including the Colossus, in Halo Infinite. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have the fan favourite Halo vehicle, the UH-144 Falcon. Now, I reckon that was probably the most predictable number 1 spot ever, but you know, it's for good reason. The Falcon is easily one of Halo's best vehicles. It took what made the Warthog so special and great, and applied it almost perfectly to an aerial vehicle. As Halo's first ever helicopter, it was designed first and foremost as a team-based vehicle, as opposed to the Hornet and also every air vehicle since that was designed to reach its peak usefulness with only one pilot. This immediately made it more interesting, as players within the Falcon were effectively assigned roles. You had a pilot and then 1 or 2 gunners. Because of the rather low aiming radius of the turrets, the gunners had to be in constant communication with the pilot, who had to ensure that he was positioning the bird effectively so the gunners had angles on the targets. It wasn't just a case of point and shoot like the Hornet or the Wasp or the Phaeton or the Banshee, it required actual cooperation and communication. And then its speed made it fantastic for strafing runs, and the ability to lock its altitude made it perfect for providing overwatch as somebody runs a flag, or somebody secures a hill, or plants a bomb. It's a truly versatile vehicle, it's a jack of all trades, but at the same time, it's a master of none. In the hands of a skilled pilot and semi-skilled gunners, The Falcon is devastating, but if you get a guy who doesn't know how to fly or doesn't cooperate with his gunners, then it's just asking to be swatted out of the sky. Now, if the Falcon were to make a return in Halo Infinite, like I really hope that it does, like the Hornet, I'd love to see it get a fair few variants that kind of rebalance certain aspects of it. First off, I'd love to see all of Reach's campaign variants be present, including the standard model, the model with the nose turret, and the model with the side-mounted grenade launchers. And then, go crazy and create new ones. Fuse a Sparrowhawk and a Falcon, creating a Falcon with wing-mounted Spartan lasers, or with a 40mm HE autocannon, or just something crazy like that. Go mental with the Falcon. Truly make it the Warthog of the skies. As long as you have the standard version of it that's nicely balanced and has a skill gap, you don't have to worry about balancing every other variant. Just go crazy. Ultimately, the Falcon managed to recreate the magic of the Warthog in air vehicle form. There's no wonder people love it so much, and, you know, it'd be a real shame, especially given how Halo's moved away from multi-seat air vehicles in recent years, to not bring this beauty of an aircraft back in Halo Infinite. 343, I say this with the will of the entire community behind me. Please, bring the Falcon back in Halo Infinite. And so, those are 7 vehicles that I personally would love to see make a return in Halo Infinite. Well, technically 9, well actually more than 9, but you know, I never do the bare minimum with these countdown videos, even when I've got a very important book to read. I always like to go above and beyond. Don't forget to fire away in the comments with vehicles that you would love to see make a return, whether they're from a main game, a spin-off, or an animated short, or anything. Go crazy, anything goes. But with that said, that's gonna do it for today. I want to give a massive thank you to all of my amazing patrons for the continued support over there, and thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all in the next one.